Welcome to the Ashes of Creation Introductory Series for their next video, where we will be continuing our breakdowns of each individual archetype and their potential combinations. Next, let's get a better understanding of the Tank Archetype. This is an exciting video, as much is currently known at this time about the Tank Archetype, and likely more will be known in the very near future as we move into the Ashes of Creation Closed Alpha. So as you look here on your screen, hopefully you can see this well enough, the tank has a set of abilities. Some of these being our basic attack abilities, such as the longsword combo. I believe that's just our basic attack abilities, which in Ashes of Creation occur in a cone radius in front of the person. So it's not just a point-and-click attack module. You can attack multiple enemies at one time with your basic attack, as long as they're within the cone radius in front of you. Some of these other moves, and I won't read through them all, generally these moves, they sound like tank abilities. When you compare tanks are a staple in almost every MMORPG ever made. World of Warcraft, Rift, Lord of the Rings Online. All of these have some sort of damage-taking class, whether it's called a tank or a dreadnought or a juggernaut or whatever it may be. It's important to note the tank appears to have a good list of CC abilities as well. Not as many high damage abilities. They also seem to have some support abilities, such as the cover ability, which targets a friendly player and absorbs 50% of his incoming damage for 6 seconds. Interesting ability there. You can read through all these abilities at your own leisure. Feel free to pause the screen at this time. But it's important to note here that mainly a tank's job is to control the fight and to help the party mitigate incoming damage, dictate who is getting hit. They can take an unconscionable amount of punishment, and woe to those who ignore their commands. It is important to note that tanks will have different build options. This includes evasion tanks, control tanks, and shield tanks. Aggro is an extremely relevant concept regarding a tank archetype, and it will be based on a hate table in Ashes of Creation, which is very similar to other MMORPGs. At this time, we have a good amount of information on the abilities surrounding the tank archetype. Again, feel free to pause your screen at this time, as we will not be talking about all these abilities, as some of them were in the previous image as well. But you can look here at just to highlight a few abilities. The hatred ability, so a single target adds hate and adds a forced target lock, and then adds hate over time per tick. So that's clearly an aggro keeping ability. And as you can see here, unlike the last video on the fighter archetype, we have some examples of how abilities rank up in Ashes of Creation. As you can see here, for example, the Bulwark ability. At rank 1, it strikes your target and increases your block chance. And then at rank 2, it does further damage of higher duration. It has an increased block chance. And at rank 3, it also progresses through the same scale. If you look at the Lob Weapon ability, throws a weapon at a target, dealing damage and a generating threat. At rank 2, it increases damage, but then it bounces to 2 additional targets, and at rank 3, it will then bounce to 4 additional targets. So this can kind of give you an idea of how abilities scale up in Ashes of Creation. Some of them just provide increased damage, but some of them do so much more, and it's very important when creating your class to decide what you would like to specialize in. Moving on to the next chart, we can see some abilities here that appear to be a little bit more of I won't say ultimate type abilities, but kind of later game abilities, including Resounding Smash, where the user smashes the ground in front of them, dealing damage to targets, and then the second hit resounds on the primary target, which seems like a big AoE generating ability, similar to something like a Consecrate in the Paladin World of Warcraft class. And the rank ups for this, not too spectacular, they just increase damage. Again, feel free to pause your screen here if you'd like to look at some more of these abilities. And the final chart. Again, looking at some of these abilities are the same, and some of them overlap. I would like to highlight here Myrmidon's Fury. So you strike your target and increase damage mitigation, generating additional threat. And then as you rank up Myrmidon's Fury, you have increased damage mitigation as you go through the ranks. It should be noted that the traditional tank in most MMORPGs carry a shield as their offhand weapon. Ashes of Creation has stated in the past that shields will remain a viable option for tanks, but not a requirement, and this all depends on what your secondary archetype is. So, without further ado, This chart is going to become very familiar to everyone who continues to watch this Ashes of Creation introductory series, as we will be using this video to discuss this image rather, to be discussing other classes as well. If you point your attention and gaze your eyes at the tank primary archetype, you can see the secondary archetypes made from, you can see the final archetypes rather, seen from having a primary tank archetype and then a secondary archetype as well. A tank and a bard creates what's called an argent. A tank and a cleric creates a paladin. Sound familiar? A tank and a fighter creates what's called a knight. A tank and a mage creates a spell shield. A tank and a ranger creates a warden. A tank primary and a rogue secondary creates a knight shield. A tank primary and a summoner secondary creates a keeper. And then a tank primary with a tank secondary creates what's called a guardian. And it's important to note that what you choose for your primary archetype and combine with your secondary will change. So example, if I have a tank primary archetype and a bard secondary, I get an argent. But if I have a bard primary and a tank secondary, I get what's called a siren. So this creates up to 64 potential class combinations. We hope that you've enjoyed this introduction into the tank archetype and Ashes of Creation. If you want more in-depth information, please see the Ashes of Creation wiki page link below and check out our future videos. If you found this video helpful, please like, comment, and subscribe below. We encourage discussions. We encourage speculation about what some of these upcoming classes are going to look like, and we would love to respond to any questions you may have. Please check us out on our other social media and streaming platforms listed below as well, and thank you always for watching. The next video in this series will be based on the rogue primary archetype. Thank you.